This video is going to continue with the topic of percents. We are going to investigate finding a percent when given a part and a whole. Be sure to put the date and topic at the top. The essential question will be, how do we calculate the percent when we know the part and the whole? One thing to keep in mind throughout this entire video is that a fraction represents a part and a whole, right? So we know that the numerator, which is up here on top, is going to represent the part of something, and the denominator down on the bottom represents the whole group. Also, keep in mind that we want to remember that a percent means out of 100. So for example, if I ask 100 people to name their favorite animal, and 72 of those people say monkey is their favorite animal, then this is the part of the group that has answered monkey, and we know that there was a whole of 100 people, right? So that's the whole group. That's our whole, right? So this is a fraction, part over whole, right? And because it's out of 100 already, right? This is already out of 100. I know that 72 out of 100, right, would be 72%, right? It's already out of 100. Sometimes, though, I'm not dealing with 100 people, right? My survey maybe is 20 people or 99 people or 1,000 people, right? Sometimes it's not always out of 100. So how do we calculate the percent when we know the part and the whole, but it's not already out of 100? Let's say in this case that we ask 50 people to name their favorite vegetable. And of those 50 people, maybe 30 name broccoli as their favorite. I'm going to set this up as a part over whole, right? So the 30 people, those are the part who said broccoli, out of 50 people who were interviewed, right? So I have 30 out of 50. Now I know that that does not, right, in big letters, mean 30%, right? Because this is not 100, right? For this to be a percent, it has to be out of 100. Some of you are probably looking at this and thinking, though, that 30 out of 50 would be the same thing as 60 out of 100, right? That's great, right? If we just make sure that we have equivalent fractions and one is out of 100, that's a nice way to find our percent, right? So now we have 60 out of 100 of the people who said they liked broccoli, which means it is 60%, right? And this is the correct one. That was the wrong one. So yeah, that's a great way to do it, right? Make sure you can turn it into a fraction out of 100 where the whole is 100. That's a nice, easy way to find percent. Of course, sometimes it doesn't work out that easily. Maybe I walk into a room and see that 5 out of 8 people are wearing red, and I want to be able to say what percentage of people are wearing red. Well, this is not out of 100, right? It's out of 8, right? I can set this up as a part out of the whole, right? The whole was 8 people, and the part that are wearing red are 5, right? So I can set this up. I know it's not out of 100, so I cannot say that this is 5%, right? We know that that is not correct. But 5/8 is also not something that goes really easily into 100, like in our last example. In this case, I'm going to use my knowledge of division. Remember that 5/8, right, also means 5 divided by 8. So I'm going to set this up like we've done before, where I'm actually going to turn this into a division question. My 5 is getting divided by my 8, and then I can add a decimal and trailing zeros as needed to be able to solve this. Of course, I need to make sure my decimal's in my answer as well. You can go ahead and solve this while you do the same. When I solve this as a division problem, I see that 5 out of 8 is equivalent to the decimal 625 thousandths. But I didn't want to turn this into a decimal. I wanted to turn this into a percent. Well, we have a strategy for that we've used before, right? We've been able to turn a decimal into a percent. Technically, we do that by multiplying this by 100, right? Because that's percent, right, out of 100. So I can do that. We've also seen the shortcut, right, the trick, where we move our decimal once to signify multiplying by 10 and twice to signify multiplying by another 10 for a total of 100. If I do that, I get 62 and a half, and that is my percent. Right? So 5 out of 8 people who are wearing red means that 62.5% of the people are wearing red. Let's have you try one more. So here we have, in a class of 24 people, 5 are the youngest in their families. We want to know approximately, there might be some rounding involved, what percent of the class is the youngest, right, or the youngest sibling. So first thing we're going to need to do is think about which is the part and which is the whole, right? So take a look at this question. Right? It looks like the part would be 5. 5 of the students are the youngest. The whole would be 24, right? And we're trying to find the percent. I'm going to leave this to you to go ahead and set this up as a division problem since it's not already out of 100. And I'll pause the video. Go ahead and pause the video as well and calculate what you see as 5 divided by 24. How'd you do? I got a repeating decimal, right? That's listed up here in my quotient. Of course, I haven't answered the question yet, right? That's great, but I haven't answered the question yet. The question is what percent of the class. So I need to do my percent by essentially multiplying this by 100, right? To do that, go ahead and move your decimal into the correct placement to show your percent. I got about 20 and 83 hundredths of a percent, but that 3 repeats, right? I know it said approximate, so I'm going to actually round this to about 21%. So about 21% of the class is the youngest in their family. Remember, the essential question of this video was to learn to find or calculate a percent when we're given the part and the whole. So let's just jot down a few steps to help us remember this process. The first thing we want to do is make a fraction with the part as the numerator and the denominator of the whole. Your second step would be to divide the part by the whole using our division rules. And lastly, take what you get when you have done your division and turn that decimal into a percent, right? By maybe perhaps just moving the decimal to the right twice. These steps should help us when we have a part and a whole and we are trying to calculate the percent.